We are a strategic investor. So number one, we look for strategy alignment with BP. In the case of bioenergy, BP wants to play in aviation. Then I look at SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. They have ethanol operations. Then I look at everything that can increase the sugarcane yields, that can demand cases that can use more ethanol. So strategy alignment and then geography alignment. Where does the startup want to play? Can we find common grounds in growing together? That way, we are not only providing capital, we are actually a growth partner for the technology company as well. People talk to me not because the capital BP Ventures can deploy, but it's the overall BP brand, our global position, our engineering expertise, and our operations in different geographies. And that helps them to deploy their technology and scale so much faster.
Welcome to Forging the Future, and I'm here today with Grace Chan, principal of BP Ventures. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
The global energy transition could unlock $23 trillion in opportunities. The energy industry has long been tied to fossil fuels, but with climate urgency mounting, how do we balance innovation, sustainability, and the demands of a global economy? Maybe tell me a little bit of what excites you most about Houston's role in energy innovation.
There's a lot that excites me about Houston, but when it comes to innovation, I have to say it's the people. I moved here 17 years ago to work in energy. So some of the brightest people that want to work in energy, that's passionate about energy, they're already here. And I believe those are the people that's going to work on energy transition and really make a dent in the climate change we need to.
So I think a lot of people are surprised that Houston is focused on more than just oil and gas, right? We're really focused on energy in general and that energy transition. Was that true 17 years ago?
It was. That's when I was graduating college. I was deciding which companies to work for. And at that time, BP leaned in heavily into solar and some of the other renewables. So I picked this greener company to work for. But now you see all the majors leaning into energy transition.
And are they still focused on solar, or are they focused on other areas as well?
I think oil and gas still pays the bill. And that's what's funding energy transition as well. But it's a lot broader than solar now. You have wind, onshore, offshore. You have hydrogen. You have EV charging and bioenergy. And that's the area I'm currently specialized in. Bioenergy? Yeah.
Tell me more about that. That sounds like people as batteries. I've seen that movie.
So Chris, just caveat, I've been working bioenergy for about a year and a half.
Okay.
So this is what I've learned. Bioenergy, you have ethanol that could be made from corn or sugarcane. And that's the case for BP. We have 50,000 barrels of sugarcane ethanol we produce a day in Brazil. And bioenergy also, it's different fats to energy, waste to energy. There are people out there working on whatever you can think of, avocado pits, almond shells, forestry residues. How do you turn that into energy? And there are a lot of smart people working on them.
Avocado pits, huh?
Yes.
Okay, that's a lot of avocados.
That is a lot of avocados.
But we do like our guacamole here, so.
With the chips, you're getting me hungry now.
So where does that go? That ethanol, all that ethanol that's being produced, are they just adding that as a additive to gas, or is they using it directly?
So in the US, you blend that into the gasoline mix. In Brazil, actually, when you go to the pumps, you can pump 100% E100 ethanol. The cars in Brazil, they're running on flex fuel. And that's something I learned in the last 6 months.
And do you need to modify the car in order to do that?
The cars are modified in Brazil. So the flex fuel depends on the price. Did they have a great year in sugarcane? They will flex between gasoline or ethanol.
Okay, flex, you're saying.
Flex fuel.
And what does it mean to be a flex fuel? The car can run on either one, or does it have to be modded in order to switch, or
you can buy cars that's already made that can run on flex fuel.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. And are they any less safe? That's part of the problem with like hydrogen and things like that, is that the cars
So for me,
tend to want to blow up when you hit them, right?
yeah, definitely hydrogen cars will have different safety considerations. I'm sure for ethanol, it's different fuel, but the property wise, it's a liquid. It's a lot like gasoline. I don't know all the considerations, but people have been figuring it out, and they've been doing that for the past more than 10 years already.
Well, we certainly have a lot of corn in the United States and often don't know what to do with all of it, right?
That's right.
So fuel would be one
Fuel
way
would be
to do
one. And actually, what do you do with the leftover corn stovers? So there's the first generation ethanol that's made from corn, but the leftover waste, that's 2G ethanol. And there are also people working on that, people way smarter than me.
And is it just less quality fuel? Is that the issue, or?
I think it's the efficiency.
Efficiency. Okay. All right. And can you power on more than cars with it? Or?
I think so, definitely. There are different applications. And for cars, you can argue electrification might be the more dominant solution. But for some of the heavy duty industries or for aviation, I believe biofuels is the answer, and marine too.
Isn't Brazil pretty big in oil? That's my impression, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting that they've kind of gone this direction where the cars can run on flex fuels. Well, I know you're also very active on BP Ventures side, which I guess is part of this biofuel investing side. So what is the biggest hurdle for clean energy investments today?
Oof, that's a loaded question. I would say it's the economics, incentive, expectations. You have the valuation the startups want, and then for the level of risk that investors taking on at that stage, we have a return expectation. It's like two people dating. We both think we can get more, so we don't want to settle. But jokes aside, it truly is when you put together your feedstock price. Do you have an offtake agreement? What is your technology? And how do you put it all together? What is your energy efficiency? When you put it together, if the economics do not chin the bar, then you have investors wanting to deploy capital, but you don't have projects that meet that hurdle rate. So to me, I can't seem to deploy capital.
Because you can't find that sweet spot right now.
I can't find that sweet spot where we both see eye to eye.
And do you like to invest super early, or what stage would you typically be investing in?
Our sweet spot is Series A, Series B. Preferably you have a product for BP to use, trial, pilot, or we can license your technology, maybe not on the first one, but after you build your first commercial plant, then BP can build our own. But we can go earlier, can go later. It really depends on if we can use your technology products in our operations.
At Softtech, we don't just follow the trends, we set them. As the founder and CEO, I've built a team that excels in delivering cutting-edge solutions in software, hardware, and IoT. From concept to completion, we're the partner that turns your tech dreams into reality. Softtech, where innovation starts. And is there any specific region, or you're investing in places like Brazil, or is it more in the United States?
That would depend on which technology. So for bioenergy, we have a sugarcane operation in Brazil. So I'm paying a lot of attention to that. But BP being a global company, some of my colleagues that work on EV charging, hydrogen, they will work with startups that's interested in the same geography that BP wants to enter or is already there.
Okay. Well, we certainly need a few more EV charging stations, I think, even though Tesla has the lead,
Yes.
I've heard from a few friends of mine that do drive EVs that they wish there was a few more options for charging their cars. But a lot of space to innovate in, right? A lot of change, I think, coming. And I've heard recently that even hydrogen is back for consideration on cars. So we'll see who really wins the race.
Would you buy a hydrogen car?
I wouldn't. I have one of the first roadsters. So, I'm an EV guy for 15 years now. But I think that's a heavy lift, especially when there's no infrastructure or anything. But, I think that one thing that we're good at as a species is innovating. So I wouldn't take it off the table. Maybe there are some advantages. There's certainly a lot of hydrogen around, but,
Yep.
If you make it safe, it could be. What about you?
I don't have an EV right now, but I will say I have a 10-year-old BMW. I think driving a car for many, many years is also sustainable. It's green in a way because there's a lot of emission that goes into production of the car. So I'm green in my own little way.
By using the same vehicle.
By using the same vehicle and drive it to the ground.
Yeah. Well, I think it'll be interesting also as we move toward, maybe not even needing to own a car, right? So
yes,
the car's getting more use on the road. Most cars sit 90% of the time, right? So in the garage, in the parking garage, at work, at the store, etc. So, even today I Ubered over. I have cars, but I just like to be able to get in, get out, and be here, right?
I looked at an investment that's doing exactly what you're talking about. How do you get more uses out of your car? We didn't end up making an investment, but their idea was put autonomous driving or semi-autonomous. So while your car is not being driven by you, your car is at work making you money.
Right. I think Tesla would like to do that. I think that they are trying to get the robo-taxi thing going. I think it's a smart idea. And then maybe there's a market for a company that will take your garage and convert it into something useful, because that's also a lot of wasted space unless you're just using it for storage, but you won't need it to store your car anymore.
My garage is pretty messy. I don't know about you.
That's true. So how do you prioritize projects then when you're making all these choices?
So we are a strategic investor. So number one, we look for strategy alignment with BP. If BP wants to play in hydrogen, then I look at electrolyzers. If BP wants to look at EV charging, then I look at chargers. And in the case of bioenergy, BP wants to play in aviation, then I look at SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. They have ethanol operations, then I look at everything that can increase the sugarcane yields, that can demand cases that can use more ethanol. So strategy alignment, and then geography alignment. We talk about this a little bit. Where does the startup want to play? Can we find common grounds in growing together? That way we are not only providing capital, we are actually a growth partner for the technology company as well. So looking for that win-win. I would say that's maybe 90% of our investments. We also, part of our team, we're on the market. We're looking for technology that can inform our strategy. Geothermal would be a good example. We made an investment in a company called Ever at the end of 2020. At that time, geothermal wasn't core to our strategy, but Ever has been a very successful company in raising funding and building out their commercial project. So as a result, geothermal could be one day be a new vertical for BP.
Interesting. Yeah, I had Cindy Taff on the show a few episodes back, and actually it was one of our more popular episodes because it was all about geothermal, which I hadn't known much about, but it makes a lot of sense.
It's such an interesting technology. And if you think about it, in the beginning of the show, we talk about people. That's so much transferable knowledge. Instead of drilling for oil and gas, we can drill for hot rocks.
Interesting. Well, I like that strategy. I think that a lot of investors could take a note that you don't have to be like right at the bullseye of what you're trying to invest in, although that sets your strategy, right? But there is a lot of supporting technology and innovation happening up and down the chain, right? And so that's what you're looking for when you're making your investments.
I think so, at least in immediate cases I'm looking for Brazil. So once the sugarcane reaches the sugar mill, we have a bioscience team that looks at fermentation process, how do you make it more efficient? But before that sugarcane goes to the mill, there's so many steps. So there are multiple startups looking at gene editing for sugarcane. How do you make it more efficient? How do you decarbonize the transportation sector, the part of the transporting sugarcane? There are many, many cases that I can see and to make an investment in to increase the efficiency of that part or decrease the carbon intensity of that part.
Let's go back to what you said earlier, because we do have quite a few startup founders that listen to the show. And you said it is actually quite a challenge to get that fit between your investment needs and what the founder wants to sell at or be invested at. Would you have any particular advice for a founder in that situation?
Well, before I give any advice, I just want to thank all the Houston startup founders. Yeah. Their job is so much harder than mine, and I have so much respect for all the founders. I think it's to seek alignment with the investors. Don't just take anyone's money, and a lower valuation in the beginning, but seeking a very, very aligned partner with your vision could be a better route to scaling in the future. And you can't afford to give away an equity if you think your pie is going to be so much bigger later on. So that's the advice I have for the founders. Look 2 or 3 fundraisers ahead.
Right. That's a good point, because often they look at that first offer and like, what? My company's worth more than that, but
it's human nature. It's so much hard. It's very hard to do that, not to look at it that way.
But if you look at like, you might have this smaller piece, but you're going to have the bigger pie with a strategic partner like BP, right? That's going to help you grow and scale your business.
And read the whole term sheet. Valuation is not the only thing. What are you giving up in terms of governance, your board seats, your voting rights, and what is the reputation of the investor? When we are doing diligence on startups, they should be doing diligence on us too.
It is a partnership.
It is a partnership. It's a marriage.
It's a marriage, yeah.
You're getting better. You have babies right away.
And yeah, it's long term, that's for sure. It's a commitment. So any other qualities you look for in potential investments? I guess you're looking at the founder, right?
I'm looking at a founder. I would say my walk away red flag for me is any unethical behavior. I feel commercial terms, we can find a way to work together if our strategies align. But if there's any bad behavior, that's my walk away.
What would be bad behavior?
If we discover any kind of fraud on the management team side, on the board member side, that's a really big red flag for us.
And what would that be, like misstating clients or customers, or any examples? Fraud is such a big job. I know what fraud is in general, but what's happening in business, right, in the startups that you would want to
I am not sure I can share that.
Well, I wasn't sure if you could make it general enough, but yeah, you see it some in the news. Right. And there's probably step one is don't appear as a 30 under 30 on Forbes, right?
I know that seems to be the list. Do not touch it.
There's at least on the cover anyway, right? So
I have some startup founders I know, they are legit and they are also on the list. So let's not
that's
shoot them all.
Not on the cover.
Not a cover.
Yeah. Well, we do need to have some fine, upstanding people on the cover.
Yeah. And I would say if you want to do business for the long term, looking for people who are ethical will serve you. They may not say everything you like, but if they're telling you bad things before they give you money, you should listen. Yeah.
Well, that integrity.
That integrity is very, very important.
Exactly. And it's hard to sometimes make sure you have it, but there are some small flags, and hopefully you can dodge a bullet in those situations. But other times, you get caught off guard.
I think Warren Buffett was saying he looks for 3 qualities: smart, hardworking, and ethical. If he can only have 2, he definitely wants ethical in there. Yeah. Otherwise, someone will work very hard to rob you blind.
The integrity. Yeah. He said if you don't have the 3rd, the first 2 will kill you.
Yes, that's right.
It's very true. It's very true.
So good qualities. What's the competitive edge they bring? Is it unique technology? Is it the commercial relationship they bring? And how does that all work together so that differentiate that one startup from the rest?
Okay. So what's been your biggest learning moment as an investor?
I learned that you can negotiate the best perfect term sheet, but if you don't have actual alignment behind the scenes, what's stated in black and white doesn't mean anything when you run into problems. And that's from experience. You can have all the governance rights you think and everyone appears fair, but you don't know behind the scenes which investors are joining at the hip. So you don't have as much influencing power as you think you do. So to me, seeking that alignment is super important to make sure you actually see eye to eye with the partners. Otherwise, that piece of paper is not going to protect you.
So I've built my companies and my businesses while also raising a family and having 5 kids. So, I'm very familiar with the struggle. I know you're also a working mom. And how has that shaped your leadership style?
Well, first of all, Chris, you're a very blessed man. I'm sure you have a lot of tricks. I would say I learned a lot of things from raising my kids. First of all, it's don't tie their success to their self-worth. For example, if my kids come home and tell me, Mommy, I got really good grades, I wouldn't tell them, Alex, you're so smart. That's why you got this grade. I'll tell them, look how hard you worked. And that's why you got that good grade. So that translates to my leadership style at work as well. I don't tie my team's success to their self-worth. It's all the team's effort. That way, if the team fails, they don't feel like, oh, it's not my ability. It's truly the circumstances or how we work showed up as a team. So I think that's really important. And also, as a leader, you have to build that trust. So that trust comes naturally between me and my kids, but you have to build that at work because I want my kids to tell me everything. And my work colleagues, you want them to tell you when there's a problem. You definitely don't want to wait till it's too late. So that's built over time. And what I learned is when our team make a mistake, as a leader, you got to be there and say, that sucks, but I'm here alongside you. Let's clean this up and figure out how not to do it again. So when my kids, when they're small, they spill milk. Obviously, you're mad, but you cannot get too mad. You have to say, okay, let's see how we can clean it up, but never do it again.
Yeah. Learn from our mistakes. Yeah, no, that's a good point. On both sides, actually, because it is a challenge sometimes as a parent to remember to reward the work and not the grade per se. Hey, great, you made an A, but then you put a lot of work and effort into that, right? And same thing on the business side. So along that vein, I mean, do you have any advice for moms in high pressure roles like yours?
I think the biggest thing we can is ask for help. Because we're so type A, a lot of times we work with alpha males. We feel like we got to show up and do everything ourselves. Over the years, I've learned that to raise my hand and ask for help. I am shameless in asking or just telling my team, hey, I cannot come into the office today. And I brought my kids to work. And then during the days that when I have to travel, I go down my list of support network. I have a wonderful nanny. And then my ex-husband, he's a good dad. And at the same time, my best friends, there are a lot of people that can help me when I need to travel for work, travel for school, or travel for pleasure sometimes.
And so that's when you're raising your hand, or are there other examples where you feel like you've had to raise your hand?
Oh, actually, when you asked me to come on the podcast, I think that was a year ago. I want to do it, but at that time, I was very honest with you. I was like, hey, Chris, love to do it, but I'm in the middle of a very difficult divorce and I'm sad and depressed. I would not make a good guest. So you can do everything, but maybe not at the same time. So it's okay to take a pause, recollect ourselves, and then say, hey, I'm ready now. Can we do it now? Yeah. So you can't have everything just not at the same time. And that's okay.
That's true. I mean, there's a time and place for everything. And I know we were exchanging probably for longer than a year, actually, but I just ping once in a while. Hey, how's it going?
I really appreciate that. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. No, good point about it's that it takes a village thing, right? But a lot of people won't ask for help. And there are a lot of people very willing to help. And one thing that I've found is that people feel like they always have to be givers, right? But actually taking help is a gift to someone who wants to give, right? So they do want to help you, right?
Yes.
And there's it shouldn't be any stigma attached to that, allowing someone to help you when you're someone that's always helping other people.
You help a lot of people. Don't you feel great about yourself after you help people?
Well, that's the gift that I'm talking about. Is It's like, let someone help. You don't have to pay for lunch every single time. If you've paid for lunch and they want to pay, let them pay. You're actually doing them a favor because they feel good about doing something for you now.
Let's go to lunch, Chris.
Take the gift. Yeah, exactly. Go to coffee, etc. So you have to let that give and take.
I'm reminded every time I'm able to help someone how great it feels, because then you're in a fortunate place to help someone. Right. And that is such a gift. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm.
So how can industries collaborate to accelerate sustainable solutions?
So Chris, before I joined BP Ventures, I have 12 years working in oil and gas. And what I remember is seeing many people collaborate together on exploration wells, because these wells are riskier than your production wells. And I see developing new technology the same way. we need to collaborate and first to enable the technology to a good place to be commercialized. Then we can compete. So on exploration wells, usually you see many co-investors. We put our interests aside and we do it as partners. We share a lot of data. I see it the same way for startups as well.
Do you see collaboration like that in Houston, or is everyone kind of siloed in their own?
For a ventures team, I do see collaboration, especially with my colleagues at Shell Ventures, Chevron Technology Ventures. And there are many financial funds that are interested in technology. We share deal flow. We ask each other our opinion on certain deals. I see a lot of collaboration.
Do you co-invest in deals? So will you see like BP and Shell on a cap table?
We were on the same cap table with Chevron Technology Ventures on the geothermal company.
Oh, okay. So it does happen. Yeah, I see. I'd like to see even more of that, even on technology investments, because I still think that people are a little bit too closed on like deal flow and cooperating. And like in California, you see A16Z and Sequoia and Khosla, and they'll all jump in on a deal, right? And so
these are all financial VCs. I think it's the commercial agreement that comes alongside an equity agreement that sometimes may not make the most collaborative partners, but you can certainly find different collaboration partners. And one example I'll give you is I've been getting a lot of deal flow from Coca-Cola.
Oh, okay.
Because their joint interest in sugar, sustainable sugar, and our sustainable ethanol. So you may have new partners in this new future.
That's interesting. So you can actually invest in the same deal because you have different interests in the outcome, right? Whereas maybe talk a little bit about corporate VC. It is different than a traditional VC because in corporate VC, you've got some other priorities besides just the funding, right?
That's exactly right. I would like to say people talk to me not because the capital BP Ventures can deploy, but it's the overall BP brand, our global position, our engineering expertise, and our operations in different geographies. So my team will negotiate equity investment into the startup, and that startup will negotiate a separate commercial agreement with a BP entity. Okay. And that helps them to deploy their technology and scale so much faster. And
is there always both hand in hand? When BP Ventures invests, there's always going to be some other...
That's a requirement for our firm. I know some strategics operate differently, but for BP Ventures, yes, it's a requirement.
Okay. Makes sense. So what legacy do you want to leave in energy investments? How are you forging the future in energy?
How am I forging the future and leaving a legacy?
Yeah.
I think there are two things I would want to leave. One, I want to see some real exits. The funds that not only monetary value that we return to the fund, but how many tons of carbon have we avoided. I think that will be a great legacy to leave. And secondly, Chris, I don't look like your typical VC bro investor. I want to see more women enter into space. I would say the most talented team are people who think differently, that come from different backgrounds, so that we have different risk appetites and we can cover all the spectrum. If I can inspire more women to enter this, that would be a great legacy.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I see more and more women getting into VC, but then they also focus mostly on women industries or products or technologies, which does need that help. But
yes.
When it comes to technology, there's not as many. So I'm with you on that. More women in tech and energy.
Yeah, energy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's a long time energy transition. So when you retire, when I retire, we need someone to carry on the torch. Mm-hmm. So that's really forging the future for the future generations.
I love that. Well, Grace, I've really enjoyed the conversation. I've got my geek socks on today, and I do have some socks for you.
Oh, thank you, Chris. Are these Pilates socks?
Well, they could be. I think they've got the color scheme for it.
It is very cute. What does it say?
It says you're a big dill.
I love it. Thank you.
Sure. Well, thanks for coming on the show. I learned a lot.
Of course. Thanks.
I know how important staying informed is for innovation and growth. The Forging the Future newsletter brings you the best in tech trends, startup advice, and industry insights. Join our community and forge your future with us. Subscribe now.